Hello everybody, in this video we will be going over whether Everfrost or Ludens is the superior mythic item on Sylas. Even though I prefer Everfrost, I know a lot of people like Luden's Tempest, so I thought might as well go over the math and see exactly how much more damage Ludens does, and if it's worth sacrificing the Everfrost utility. So this is going to be a bit subjective, though we are going to be presenting the data from different builds, but the overall end conclusions are going to be up to you guys. I'm going to give you exactly how much damage you're going to be getting out of Ludens compared to Everfrost, and you guys will have to decide if you think that that is worth sacrificing the Everfrost utility. So we're going to be going over two builds. Build 1 is going to be Everfrost, build 2 is Ludens. The only thing that's different is the mythic item. Keeping the rest the same, I wanted to go over the burst Everfrost build, just because Ludens is always going to be a burst build, so we might as well compare directly to Everfrost in the same situation. So, some things to consider. Build 1 gains plus 250 health because of the Everfrost, and both builds have the same ability haste, so you will have the same cooldowns. With Everfrost, it'll be a little bit tankier. Luden's Tempest does have a much lower cooldown than Everfrost. 10-second cooldown compared to 30 seconds on the Everfrost, so you will be able to get the damage off more often. Full combos are much easier to successfully execute with Everfrost, though, because you will have that extra crowd control to lock your target down. And build 1 is 400 gold cheaper because the Everfrost is, 400 gold cheaper than the Ludens. So we'll basically be judging if the bonus damage from Ludens is enough to make up for the lack of Everfrost utility. So we're going to go over one by one, each different item. So first item results. This is going to be just a mythic item plus sorcerer shoes. The damage is calculated for level 9 here. I tried to estimate about the levels that you would get each item. And these are going to be for full combos. You get 4 autos off, all your basic abilities off, plus the item damage. So we see that this chart is showing the different magic resist values that we're going to be covering, and the bonus damage you are getting from Ludens. So you can see against a target with 30 magic resist, this Ludens build is going to do 7.46% increased damage. So as we go up, the damage increase does go down, but, we can see against a target with 30 magic resist, that's kind of standard. Maybe they'd be about 35-ish, but 30 to 40 is going to be pretty standard for this part of the game where you'd be actually getting your mythic item. So you're going to see about a 7% damage increase on average when you get your first item plus sorcerer shoes, which is not terrible. It's a pretty decent buff. But considering the increased gold, it really depends. For second item results, we're actually going to see a decrease in 1.85% damage at 30 magic resist, and this is because of magic penetration overflow, I guess. Because you can only penetrate up to the amount of magic resist that the target has. So if they have 10 magic resist and you have 20 magic pen, they're only going to go down to 0 magic resist, effectively. Which means that this bonus magic penetration from Ludens, since we have 38 penetration from Shadow Flame plus Sorcerer Shoes, the bonus penetration from the Ludens is going to be wasted in this 38 magic resist scenario. And since Everfrost has a higher AP ratio and does give bonus AP from its mythic passive, we're actually going to get a slightly higher Everfrost build damage at these lower magic resist numbers. 40 magic resist, it's about the same, and then it does spike up at 50, because this is when Everfrost starts to fall off due to the magic resistance, whereas the Ludens build is still going with the very high magic penetration. We can see about a 9% increase in damage. It does fall off to about 5% at 100. At this point in the game, your tankier targets are usually going to have about 50 to 70 magic resist, so you are getting about a 7 to 9% increase in damage. There are also going to be targets that are 30 to 40, which means that your Ludens build could actually be doing less damage than Everfrost, but some of your targets are going to be in this range, which is where you're mainly going to be focusing if you're going for Ludens, because you are going to want to go Ludens in situations where enemies have more magic resist. Third item results, we're adding the Zanyas here. So we see we're doing decreased damage up until 50 magic resist. So at 50 magic resist, we are getting an 8% bonus to damage. 60 is 11%, which is actually pretty substantial. Then it does go down over time, but it spikes at this 60 because we do have the bonus magic penetration from the new items. That's going to increase our mythic passive. Yeah, so we're getting a bit more of a gap than before. You know, with the first and second items, we're getting about 5 to 7% increased damage, maybe up to 9%. Now we're going up to 11%. And so in this range, we're actually getting a pretty nice damage increase from the Ludens. For fourth item, we're going to be going over Deathcap and Void Staff for which one you're going to go fourth item, because you can go either depending on the situation. So first, we're going to be going over Deathcap. You are going to lose damage again at 30 and 40 magic resist, but at 60 to 80 magic resist, you're getting a pretty substantial increase in damage. Yet again, 14% bonus damage against targets with 60 magic resist. And it does fall off after that, but that is a pretty decent amount. With our Void Staff, because we are having much more magic penetration, we are going to be wasting more potential. So we're actually going to be losing a lot of damage early on, up until 80 magic resist, and we're only getting a 4.5% bonus. But 90 to 150, we're actually getting a greater than 10% damage increase from the Ludens, up to 15% at 100 magic resist. So if you are going fourth item with the Ludens build and you're up against a target with like maybe 100 or 110 magic resist, you are going to be dealing a lot more damage than the Everfrost build. And I mean, 15% doesn't sound like too much, but that's sort of the difference between a target living with maybe a couple hundred health and dying. So it does mean a lot. Now for the full build, we're going to have the Deathcap and the Void Staff. So we do see that we are losing damage up until 70 magic resist again. And 100 to 175, we're getting above 10%. So again, at 110, this is a plus 17% increase in damage, which is pretty crazy. This is going to be your targets that are building more tanky, maybe your bruisers that are building maybe one magic resist item, or your veins that are building Wit's End and Merc Treads, stuff like that. So in this 100 to 110 range, it's going to be where a lot of champions lie up at their full build, because most of them will build at least one magic resist item. So being able to deal 17% increased damage against these targets that are building one magic resist item is very strong, but against targets that are going full glass cannon, you are going to actually lose out on some damage. So Everfrost performs better against targets with lower magic resist. Luden performs better against targets with higher magic resist. So you are actually losing damage if you are building Ludens against targets with low magic resist. Everfrost is better at bursting targets that are going glass cannon. Ludens also gains most of its effectiveness after fourth and fifth item. You can see, you know, the higher bonuses are going to be attributed to the fourth and fifth item spikes, as opposed to 1 to 3 items, where we're only getting about a 5 to 9% damage increase. Fourth and fifth item, we're going up to like 15 to 17, which is much higher. So Ludens is more of a late game option. Everfrost is an effective early game buy. It does give you a lot of utility. It has lower cost, and it's mostly similar damage as before. Ludens doesn't really get that much different until later. And though Ludens does do a lot more damage against magic resist stackers, it does require time to get online. You have to wait until those fourth and fifth items, and it lacks a lot of the utility that Everfrost gives. So personally, I think Everfrost still the superior play. I feel comfortable with Everfrost. I'm going to keep building Everfrost. But hopefully you guys are able to see this data and make an informed decision for yourself. You do get a pretty substantial damage increase later in the game, but you are actually losing damage against, you know, low magic resist targets. It also is going to cost you more, and you're losing out on the amazing utility that Everfrost provides. So again, this is for full combos, so Everfrost is going to give you a lot easier time with full comboing. Ludens is going to be a lot harder. But yeah, if you can get that Luden's full combo off, you are getting a decent amount of extra damage. The problem with that is that I feel like it's not necessarily going to be that way all the time. So, you know, if you're not able to land your abilities confidently, then you may actually just be losing damage in all situations compared to Everfrost, where you'd be guaranteeing that you land your Q and your E. But there's the data. You guys can make an informed decision based off of that. Personally, if you do like Ludens, I would honestly just recommend going Everfrost first item and then selling it for Ludens later. Maybe you'll get more practice with Everfrost and you'll end up liking it, I don't know. But Everfrost is a lot cheaper, it's going to come online a lot earlier, and Ludens doesn't really deviate that much. It doesn't really get that much stronger until fourth and fifth item. So, if you guys like this content and want to see more, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.